Just a little bit of buzz, not a
Yeah,
lot, Ruth. Yeah.
I'll mute it. It's somebody's
No worry.
working outside.
No worry. So we come to chapter 12. And again, we see this amazing vision, as we might say. We might sort of describe here, John lets his imagination run wild. This woman about to give birth, a dragon poised to eat the child, conflict in heaven, which spills over onto the earth. Most definitely 18 rated, and not the stuff of bedtime stories for our children. And we also see here John blurring imagery that he's drawing both from Old Testament prophecy, but also from Roman mythology. And he's bringing these two together. And so what are we to make of all this? And I guess another question would be, what would those persecuted and suffering Christians in the churches of Asia make of this as they read it? Some commentators have been bold enough to describe this as a nativity scene with a difference. There's no crib, there's no shepherds or wise men, but there's a dragon and there's conflict. But it reveals the same thing, the incarnation of the Messiah. So how do we understand this? Most would agree this is one of the pivotal chapters in the book of Revelation, in that it's the turning point, and from here on, pretty much it becomes more positive and upbeat as it looks forward. Judgment is past, the New Jerusalem is to come. But it's also a pivotal chapter because it not only addresses the present, but it looks back. We might say almost to the beginning, as well as forward to the end. Again, we might look at it in that way. It's this huge panorama that this chapter covers. And so we see these signs introduced. The first, this woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. Now, much in Catholic tradition sees this, or identifies this woman as Mary, and for good reason, that we might say. But most commentators outside of the Catholic tradition, because of the sun and the moon and the stars surrounding this woman, they make reference to Joseph's dream in Genesis, as well as to Isaiah's vision in Isaiah 66. And say that the sun and the moon representing mother and father, the 12 stars representing the 12 tribes of Israel, Isaiah's vision of a woman about to give birth. So most commentators outside of the Catholic tradition would say that she's more likely to represent this sort of Old Testament vision and understanding that Messiah would come from the Jews. So she represents then the Jewish nation. Now, whether that's the whole nation, and we've wrestled with this before about will all the Jews be saved, or whether she represents a remnant, it's not clear. We've seen already, John talks about, the 12,000 from every tribe, this idea of a remnant, but she represents the Jews, as it were. Like I say, whether that's the whole or this sort of remnant of Messianic Jews who are saved, we don't know. And then John introduces us to this second sign, this dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns, echoing something of Daniel's vision. And again, the image coming both from Old Testament. We see this idea in Job and Psalms, this reference to Leviathan, and in the monster of the waters, and in the Greek translation, it's translated as dragon. But John's image is also drawn from sort of Roman mythology, the story of Python and Leto and Apollo. And Python, the dragon, represents chaos, is warned that he is going to be destroyed by one of Leto's children. And so the dragon sets off to destroy these children. She is protected by water, and one of the other sort of mythical gods carries her away. And so we see the blurring of these sort of two sort of sources that would have been familiar to the people John is writing to. And then with this dragon with horns and heads and crowns, symbolic of strength and power and personality. And again, commentators would say representing human empire and its claim to universal power. And if we think about Rome at the time, world domination, seeking to bring everything into the empire, crushing everything that stood in opposition, appearing to be perfect. And this dragon is now identified by John as Satan, the spiritual power working behind the human empire. And we see Satan's fall from heaven is depicted again, an echo of Old Testament, Isaiah 14, chapter 12, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12, particularly. And so what we see, if you like, is the full frontal power grab fails, but the guerrilla tactics continue. So most would see Satan, Lucifer, sitting alongside Michael, the archangel, who we see mentioned here, and Lucifer, star of the morning, it translated as, seeks to sort of take power from God, to become equal with God, and is cast out of heaven, and is sort of placed upon the earth. And that sort of guerrilla tactic of undermining God continues. But it'll not succeed, even though at times it might feel like it, it might look like it, it will not succeed. Satan's downfall is a matter of rejoicing for God's people. And Satan will be defeated, and our salvation is fully assured. And we see that sort of celebration, that those sort of words of worship and exaltation sitting in the middle of this chapter. And so for John's readers, feeling themselves at the mercy of Rome, chewed up and spat out, these words and this image would bring both hope and encouragement. And so I'll stop there. That's sort of a big overview of the chapter, and then we can just open it out for discussion or questions.